I was the one who heard it first, because hearing things first was the whole of my job. Senior sensor operator, second watch, aboard the diplomatic frigate Halverson, 3 weeks out from the relay buoy, and deep enough into uncharted dark that the stars behind us had started to look unfamiliar. We were not a warship. That mattered later. We carried 2 cloaked escorts, a negotiator named Renata Okafor, who outranked the captain in every way that counted, and a hold full of gifts nobody back home expected to need. The signal that found us wasn't a hail, it was a question, delivered in pure mathematics, arriving on every frequency we owned at once, as if the thing asking it had already catalogued every way we might listen and chosen all of them simultaneously. Captain Dressier called it a ping. I knew, the moment it touched my board, that it was something colder than that. A ping wants to know you're there. This wanted to know what you were. We answered the only way protocol allowed: open channel, plain language, our designation and our intent. Peaceful contact. No weapons charged. We came in good faith. Nothing answered back. Not for 11 hours. Then space ahead of us simply stopped being empty. There was no decloak, no flare of engines, none of the violence I'd trained for. A structure resolved itself out of the dark, the way a word resolves out of static once your ear catches the rhythm. Vast, geometric, built from angles that didn't behave like angles should, surfaces that drank light rather than reflecting it. Renata called it elegant. I thought it looked like something built by a mind that had never needed to be liked. It spoke to us in our own language within the hour, better than any translator we carried, and it called itself, in the closest word it could find, the Warden. The Warden did not ask who we were. It told us. It had already run us. Our hull metallurgy, the cadence of our communications, the biological signatures bleeding faintly off our life support, through some process it referred to only as the trial, and it informed us, without malice and without warmth, that the trial was now underway, and would conclude when sufficient data existed to render a verdict on whether our species qualified as a stable variable or a hazard requiring containment. Renata asked what the trial required of us. Nothing, the Warden said. You need do nothing. That is, itself, data. For 2 days it watched us live. It did not board us, did not demand anything, asked no questions we could answer with a lie. It simply observed. How we rationed water when a recycler glitched. How we treated the one crewman who panicked and had to be relieved of duty. How the captain spoke to Renata when they disagreed. How I logged a sensor anomaly that turned out to be nothing and reported the error rather than burying it. Small things. The Warden seemed to care only about small things, the way a man checking a foundation cares nothing for the paint. I started to understand, watching it, watch us, that this was not a creature in any sense I had words for. It had no fleet because it had never needed one. It had judged 1,000 species before mine, by its own quiet accounting. And most of what it knew about violence it had learned secondhand, as a pattern in data, never as a thing it felt. It was not malicious. It was simply thorough, and thoroughness from something with that much patience is its own kind of terror. On the 3rd day it asked to speak with whoever among us understood fear best. The captain volunteered Renata. The Warden, in its flat exact way, said it had not asked for the diplomat. It had asked for the one who listened for danger before anyone else on the ship knew danger existed. So I went. I won't pretend I wasn't afraid, walking that corridor with an escort of silence instead of Marines, into a shuttle bay that the Warden had quietly and without permission filled with its own light. It did not have a face. It had a column of shifting geometry that resolved when I looked directly at it, into something almost like attention. It asked me one question. Why did you report the false alarm? I told it the truth, because lying to a thing that had been reading our biology for 2 days felt like the single stupidest risk available to me. I said a false alarm reported honestly costs you nothing but a little pride, and a true alarm buried out of pride costs you everything, and I had decided a long time ago which one I could live with. The Warden was quiet long enough that I thought I'd failed something I didn't understand the shape of. Then it said, every species we have catalogued that survived contact with something stronger than itself survived because somewhere in its structure was a mechanism that valued the unwelcome truth over the comfortable one. Most do not have it. Most tell themselves what they wish to hear until the lie becomes load-bearing, and then the structure fails. You have it. It is small in you. It is enough. It did not promise us peace. It did not promise us anything so simple. What it told the captain, in front of all of us, was that humanity was not yet a hazard, that the trial would not conclude, could never fully conclude, by its own design, because a verdict closed a door and the warden preferred doors that stayed open, but that we would be permitted to continue, watched, unannounced, indefinitely, by a thing that would say nothing further unless we gave it reason to speak. Renata asked, carefully, whether that meant we had passed. There is no passing, the warden said. There is only continuing to be the kind of thing worth watching, instead of the kind of thing worth ending. You will not know which one you are on any given day. Neither did the others, until they stopped being either. It withdrew the way it had arrived, not retreating, simply ceasing to need to be visible. The vast structure folding itself out of relevance against the dark, until even my board couldn't hold the shape of it. We turned the Halverson for home 3 days later, and I have never told this story the way Renata's official report tells it, all calm conclusions and diplomatic language, because that report leaves out the only part that mattered to me. It leaves out that something old enough to have judged 1,000 species had looked through every lie we might have told it and found, in one tired censor operator's habit of reporting bad news honestly, the one thread it considered worth the risk of letting us live. I think about it still, on quiet watches, when the boards are calm and the dark outside the hull looks like it's listening. Somewhere out there, the warden is watching someone else's first contact right now, asking its only question, waiting to see which kind of thing they turn out to be. I hope, for their sake, that one of them has learned to tell the truth about the small failures. It was the only test that ever mattered, and we never even knew we were taking it until it was already over.